Good day, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 3 of Gender and Society with Peace Studies. We are Group 2 and today we will discuss about theorizing gender. But before we start, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why pink is usually for girls and blue is for boys? Or why when a woman cries, people say it's normal, but when a man cries, they say he is weak? Is that natural, or is that something society taught us? Today, we will start understanding how society shapes the way we see gender. And now, let's talk about Gender Lenses by Sandra Lipsitz-Bam. She discusses how hidden assumptions embedded in cultural discourses, social institutions, and individual psyches perpetuate male power and oppress women and sexual minorities. Bam argues that these assumptions or lenses of gender shape perceptions of social reality and material things like unequal pay and inadequate daycare. These cultural lenses enable us to look at them rather than through them, and to better understand recent debates on gender and sexuality. So what does this mean? According to Bam, society has invisible lenses. Pareha siya og eyeglasses nga atong gisulob everyday, but we don't even notice them. These lenses shape how we see men and women. Sa Bisaya pa natay mga hidden beliefs na murag automatic nakaayo sa ato ang huna-huna. For example, ang mga lalaki kay dapat strong and dili dapat hilak, while ang mga babae kay dapat caring og maayo mo atiman. Because these beliefs are everywhere, like sa media, sa school, sa family, murag na normalize na lang nato siya. But according to Bam, these lenses are powerful. They don't just affect opinions, they affect real-life situations like why women are sometimes paid less than men, and while childcare is often expected to be a woman's responsibility. The important point here is awareness. If we are not aware of these lenses, we simply look through them and think everything is normal. But if we become aware, we can start looking at them, questioning them, challenging them, and understanding gender issues more deeply. And now that we understand what gender lenses are, my group mate will explain the 3 specific gender lenses identified by Bam.
And now, let's tackle about the 3 gender lenses by Sandra Lipsitz-Bam. First, we have androcentrism or male-centeredness. So, it defines males and male experience as a standard or norm and females and female experience as a deviation from that norm. So, this lens defines men and their experiences as a default or normal standard. So, women and their experiences are then seen as a departure or deviation from this norm. Essentially, it places male perspectives and lives at the center, making female perspective secondary. Second is gender polarization. It defines superimposes male-female differences on virtually every aspect of human experience, from moods of dress and social rules to ways of expressing emotion and sexual desire. So, this lens takes the differences between males and females and exaggerates them, applying these perceived differences to almost every aspect of human life. This includes things like how people dress, the social roles they take on, how they express emotions, and even their sexual desire. It creates a rigid separation based on gender, where everything is seen through a male or female issue to me. And lastly, we have a biological essentialism. It regionalizes and legitimizes the other 2 lenses by treating them as inevitable consequences of the intrinsic biological natures of women and men. So this lens attempts to justify or rationalize the previous two lenses of androcentrism and gender polarization. It does this by claiming that the difference between man and woman and the roles they play are simply the inevitable result of their inherent biological natures. In other words, it argues that these differences are just how things are because of biology.
Now let's move on to the individual level theories. So before we dig in with these different theories, let's define first what is individual level theories. Individual level theories focus on what happens inside the person. So these theories look at the person itself or individual to explain why men and women are different. It focuses on how a person internally develops their sense of being a boy, a girl, or another identity, and how they learn to act accordingly to that gender. Instead of looking at the whole world or history, these theories focus on what is happening inside a person's body or inside their own minds as they grow up. Also, this theory says that our behavior and attitude comes from two things or areas. It's our nature and nurture, where nature is what we inherit through genes and DNA. This our behavior and attitude nga napasa or nakuha na nato from our parents and kaliwat-liwatan. While nurture is what we learn since we are kids and store it in our brains. These are behavior and attitude were nakuha or nasunod or nakopy nato from the environment or our society. Especially ang mga bata. Dali ra jud sila makakopy. What they see in their surroundings is not a possibility nga makopy ug mabuhat sad na nila. So to understand more about these theories, here's my co-reporters and they will be the one to dig in what are these different theories.
So, evolutionary theory suggests that differences between men and women are rooted in genetics and have developed over time to help us survive and reproduce. So, functionalism, this idea proposes that men and women evolved to have different but complementary rules that were essential for the survival of the human species. And for the best view, this perspective suggests that the behavioral difference or differences we see between men and women came from different strategies. They developed to successfully reproduce and pass on their genes. And essentially, this theory claims that our ancestors need to survive and have children to shape some of the fundamental difference we observe between genders today.
And now, let's talk about the object relations theory. So, object relations theory explains that children develop their gender identity through their early relationship with their parents or caregivers. So, this means that children learn how to act as a boy or a girl by observing the people around them, especially their mother or father. For example, a young girl copies her mother's behavior, like caring for others, unsa pa na diha nga kanang behavior sa parents nga kuan sa babay, and also sa lalaki sad. So, unsa may makapi sa lalaki sa amahan? Like like acting strong or unsa pa na diha kanang mga buhat sa laki. That's the meaning of object relations theory.
And now let's talk about gender schema theory by Sandra Lepsitzbem. It focuses on the role of cognitive organization in addition to socialization. This theory postulates that children learn how culture defines the roles of men and women and internalize this as a gender schema. The gender schema is used to organize subsequent experiences and self-concepts. Children assume traits and behaviors suitable for their gender. So what is gender schema theory? So according to them, gender is not only taught to us by society. It is also organized inside our minds. Sa Bisaya pa, dili lang ta ginatudluan sa society unsay role sa lalaki o babayi, ato pud siyang gistor sa atong utok as a guide. This guide is called a gender schema. Think of it as a mental framework. Murag folder sa atong brain nga nakabutang boy things and girl things. When children grow up, they observe what toys boys usually play with and what clothes girls usually wear and how men and women behave. Then they internalize it. For example, a boy might refuse to play with dolls not because he truly doesn't like it, but because he has already learned that dolls are for girls. So instead of choosing based on interest, he chooses based on what fits his gender schema. That's how powerful this theory is. It shows that children actively process gender information. They are not just passive receivers. They organize it and use it to shape their identity. Over time, this affects their confidence, their career choices, and also their personality development. So gender schema theory helps us understand how early gender expectations can influence a person's self-concept and life decisions.
And now, let's tackle about the social rule theory by 𝙂𝐀𝐿 1987. Alice 𝙂𝐿 offers other explanation of gender development based on socialization. So this theories hope provides a different perspectives on how gender develops, specifically highlighting that her explanation is rooted in socialization, the process by which individuals learn the norms, values, and behaviors of their society. The social role theory suggests that the sexual division of labor and societal expectations based on stereotypes produce gender roles. So this is the core tenet of 𝙂𝐿 social rule theory. So it states that gender roles, the socially effective behaviors for men and women, arise from the two main sources. First, we have a sexual division of labor. How tasks and responsibilities are traditionally divided between genders and society. Second, we have a societal expectations based on stereotypes, the generalized beliefs about what men and women are like or should be like, which then shape expectations for their behavior. 𝙂𝐿 1987 distinguishes between the communal and agentic dimensions of gender stereotype characteristics. This sentence, 𝙂𝐿 1987, work categorized the traits commonly associated with gender stereotypes into two main types, communal and agentic. These are like two different sets of characteristics that societies often assign to genders. The communal code is characterized by attributes such as nurturance and emotional expressiveness commonly associated with domestic activities and thus with women. So this sentence defines the communal rule. So it includes qualities like being nurturing or caring for others and showing emotions openly. So these attributes are typically linked to activities within the home or domestic sphere and consequently are often described to women. The agentic rule is characterized by attributes such as assertiveness and independence commonly associated with public activities and thus with men. So this sentence defines the agentic rule. It includes qualities like being assertive or standing up for oneself and being independent. These attributes are typically linked to activities outside like the home or public sphere like work of politics and consequently are often ascribed to men. Behavior is strongly influenced by gender roles. When cultures endorse gender stereotypes and form firm expectations based on those stereotypes of 𝐲𝐑𝐿 1987. It emphasizes the powerful impact of gender roles on how people behave. These influences are particularly strong in culture where gender stereotypes are widely accepted and used to create rigid expectations for individuals, guiding what is considered appropriate behavior for men and women. As 𝐲𝐑𝐿 suggests, gender roles are closely linked with gender stereotypes. So stereotypes are overgeneralized beliefs about people based on membership in one of many social categories of Anselmi and Law 1998. It reiterates the tight connections between gender roles and stereotypes. It then provides a clear definition of stereotypes as overgeneralized beliefs, meaning they are broad assumptions made about people simply because they belong to a certain group, or in this case, is a gender. So, first, gender stereotypes is traits. It is about personality attributes. Example, strong or sensitive. Second, we have a rule behavior. It is about our actions or tasks expected. Example, doing housework or being a leader. Third, we have a physical characteristics. It is about our appearance based of assumptions. Example, tall or delicate. Lastly, we have occupations. It is about the types of jobs.
Now let's move on to interactionist perspective on gender. According to sociology, the interactionist perspective says that gender isn't just something we are born with. It means that wala gilimit ang definition of being a woman and a man based only on the reproductive organs, but also on something we do every single day. Interactionist perspective is also called symbolic interaction, where gender is produced and reinforced through daily interactions and the use of symbols. It means that instead of seeing gender as a fixed biological trait, interactionists believe we performed gender. What do you mean of perform gender? Because we act, dress, and speak in the ways that tells the world that I am a woman or I am a man. Also, we use symbols to communicate our gender. What do you mean by symbols? These symbols includes clothes, hairstyles, and even the way we sit. Yes, you can tell anyone that you are a woman or a man based on the way you act, how you dress and show yourself, how you speak, how you walk, how you sit. And ang mga tao sa nga nakakita nimo, makaingon nga, babae ni siya, kay ga-dress man siya. Lalaki ni siya, kay baho og tingog. Inana. Gets ra? Very good. Gender only has meaning because we all agree on it during our daily conversation. So, murag mao na standard or nakasanayan nato how we identify or see different genders. So, for example, wearing a dress isn't feminine by itself. It's only feminine because society has agreed that it represents womanhood or being a woman. So based on the interactionist perspective, gender is like a role play that we act every day. We learn the script or agreement of the society of identifying or seeing different genders. And we perform it whenever we interact with other people. So if you want other people to see you as a woman, then act and dress as a woman. And if you want other people to see you as a man, then act and dress as a man. Now let's move on to the Looking Glass Self by Charles Colley. Charles Colley's theory explains how our identity or how we think we are is shaped by how we think others see us. Let's imagine looking into a mirror, just like in the picture. You don't see your true self. You see a reflection. Colley says that other people are our mirror. Now let's look at the picture and let's pretend that we are the guy looking at the mirror. How my mom and dad see me. I'm such an angel, buutan, obedient na pagkaanak. How my girlfriend sees me. I'm such a masculine, strong and brave boyfriend. How my older brother sees me. I'm such a chill brother. How my ex-girlfriend sees me. I'm such a devil or a cheater. So we see ourselves based on what others think of us. Muagri sad ba mo ana that we have different personality towards different people we are with? Ako agree kiko ana. I have a lot of personalities. My behavior and attitude will depend kung kinsa ang mga tao nga akong kauban. How my mom and dad see me. They see me as a very obedient, introvert, buutan ang pagkaanak. How my partner sees me. He sees me as a very soft-hearted lady. How my brothers sees me. They see me as a very rude, very maldita nga ate. How my friends sees me. They sees me as a very talkative, very extrovert nga pagkababae. Those personalities that I said are the things that I think people see me. And that's how I think and see myself too. There are 3 steps of the looking glass self. First, imagination. We imagine how we appear to others. For example, I wonder if they think I look good with my dress tonight. I wonder if I dress accordingly tonight. So we overthink things. We overthink what others think of us, of our appearance. The second one, judgment. We imagine how others are judging us based on that appearance. For example, they probably think I am overdressed tonight. They probably think I am judgment tonight. So we judge ourselves in our mind. The third one, self-feeling. We develop a feeling about ourselves based on that judgment. If we think they like us, we feel confident. If we think they are judging us negatively, we feel bad or ashamed of ourselves. For example, maawaw naman kung makipag-interact sa uban, uy, because I feel I don't look good tonight. That's how looking glass self work. To easily understand the concept of the interactionist perspective, I'll give an example. If a boy plays a doll and he notices that his parents looking worried or upset, he reflects that judgment and begins to feel that his behavior is wrong for a boy. And that way, he will change his behavior. This is how we learn to fit into gender roles. Overall, the interactionist perspective on gender aren't things we make alone. We develop them by interacting with the people around us and reacting to their feedback. And those feedback will help us change the things that aren't right.
So, according to Coley, the formation of self identity happens in three steps. So, first, imagine how we appear to others. We think about how others see us. And second, imagine how others judge us. So, we consider how others might evaluate our appearance and how we present ourselves. And last, imagine how others feel about us. So, the third one, we consider the feelings others might have towards us based on their judgment. So the in essence of Coley suggests that our sense of self is largely shaped by how we perceive others see, judge, and feel about us.
Irving Goffman. So, according to him, gender is like a performance. So, this means that people show their gender through their actions, behavior, and appearance. So, based on what society expects. For example, a boy avoids crying because society expects boys to be strong. And also, sa mga babae, sad is mag-wear og dresses, unsa pa na dira. So, because society expects girls to look feminine.
So now, let's have symbolic interaction in gender. Gender meanings are socially created and change over time. Masculinity and femininity are performed identities, meaning gender is something we do, not something we are. According to Cooley's Looking Glass Self, people see themselves based on how society views them. While West and Zimmerman's idea of doing gender explains that gender is maintained through accountability and social status depends on performing expected gender rules. So, what does this mean? Symbolic interactionism tells us that gender is not fixed or automatic. It is socially created. Sa Bisaya pa, ang meaning sa pagkalalaki o pagkababaye dili permanent. Nagadepende siya sa society o pwede siya mausab over time. For example, before, pink was actually associated with boys, but karon, pink is usually for girls. That shows nga gender meanings change. The theory also says that masculinity and femininity are performed identities, meaning gender is something we do every day through our actions, behavior, clothes, and even the way we talk. Dili lang siya kung unsa ta biologically, but ginapakita nato siya sa ato ang daily interactions. According to Charles Horton Cooley and his concept of looking glass self, we develop our self-image based on how we think others see us. So if bata ka nga lalaki and always ka makadungog nga, boys don't cry. Eventually, ang bata nga lalaki magtuo nga dili dapat siya mahilak, even if he feels hurt. Meanwhile, Candace West and Don H. Zimmerman introduced the idea of doing gender. They explain that society holds us accountable, meaning ginabantayan sa society kung sakto ba ato ang pag-perform sa gender rules. For example, a teenage boy avoids wearing pink at school because he worries others might question his masculinity. So dili lang siya personal choice. Napudi ay siya social pressure. Because in society, acceptance and even status sometimes depend on how well we perform expected gender rules. In short, this theory teaches us that gender is interactive. It is shaped and reshaped through everyday social interactions. And if society can create gender meanings, then society can also change that.
And now, let's talk about the structural perspective of gender. A structural functionalist view of gender inequality applies the division of literature to view predefined gender rules. As a complementary, women take care of the home, while men provide for the family. Thus, gender, like other social institutions, contributes to the stability of society as a whole. The functionalist perspectives of gender rules suggest that gender rule exists to maximize social efficiency. So this sentence introduces the core idea of functionalism. Regarding gender rules, it means that functionalists believe the different rules assigned to men and woman in society. So it serves as a purpose to make society operate as smoothly and effectively as possible. Functionalist perspective sees society as a complex system whose parts works together to promote solidarity and stability. This approach looks at society through a macro level orientation and broadly focuses on the social structures that shape society as a whole. So it explains the broader functionalist view of society. It's like looking at a machine where each part, like institutions, norms, and rules, has a specific functions, and when all parts work together, the machine or society runs well. So it's maintaining unity and order. This theory suggests that gender inequalities exist as an efficient way to create a division of labor. So, or as a social system in which a particular segment of the population is clearly responsible for certain acts of labor, and another segment is clearly responsible for other labor acts. So this sentence connects gender inequality to the concept of efficiency. So functionalists argue that historical division where man and woman has then distinct tasks. Example, men as the providers, women as the homemakers. So we're seen as efficient for survival and societal functioning. So it's a system where responsibilities are clearly delineated between genders. The feminist movement takes the position that functionalism neglects the suppression of women within the family structure. This highlights a major criticism of functionalism from a feminist standpoint. Feminists argue that functionalism, by focusing on efficiency and stability, overlooks that the power imbalances and oppression that women have experienced due to rigid gender rules, especially within the family unit where traditional rules often lead to women subordination. This defines the term of division of labor. So it means breaking down a large task or work into smaller, specialized jobs and then assigning those specific jobs to different individuals or groups. This specialization is often seen as a way to increase productivity and efficiency.
Continuation of structural perspective of gender. So to understand it clearly, let's think this way. Think of a society like a human body or a big company. For a body to live, the heart has its own job. The lungs has its own job. And the other parts of the body has its own specific job too. The structural perspective says gender roles works the same way. Men and women have different jobs to make sure the whole world runs smoothly. This is where the term division of labor comes. Dividing work into special tasks so everyone knows their role. So it simply means splitting the chores or the job. Instead of everyone trying to do everything, society divides the work. This makes things efficient. What is efficient? Making things fast and easy. Because everyone becomes an expert at their own task. Kay nanay naka-assign sa ilahang specific task. One group is responsible for one type of work and another group is responsible for a different type. Here comes the complementary rules, where the theory says men's and women's rules are like two puzzle pieces that fit together. The women's rule usually focus on the home, like cooking and raising kids, while the men's rule usually focus on things outside the home, like working and earning money. So because they do different things, they need each other. This need for one another is what keeps families and societies stable. The goal of structural perspective is social stability. If everyone knows their role and do their job, there is less confusion and less fighting. It makes society work perfectly in harmony.
Okay, let's break down these two ideas. First is biological sex and gender presentation are not necessarily linked. So, what you're born with physically, like your body parts or chromosomes, doesn't automatically decide how you look, dress, or act to express your gender. A biological male can present as feminine, like gays, and the biological female can present as masculine. Your body doesn't tell the whole story of how you show your gender to the world. So, second, how people present their gender as men or women is learned from society, something we perform and something we achieve socially. Uh, uh, for this, the way we expect men and women to look and behave isn't natural. It's something society teaches us. We learn these rules about being masculine or feminine from our families, friends, and media. Then we perform these rules throughout our lives, often often trying to accomplish or fit into what society expects of our genders. It's like learning a script and acting it out.
Critical gender theory. Critical gender theory explains that gender roles are created by society, and these roles can affect how men and women are treated. So this means that society gives different expectation and opportunities to male and females. So for example, men are more given leadership roles while women are sometimes given fewer opportunities bisan pagkaya na nimo, bisan pagkaya na sa babay. So this show that gender roles and can influence how people are treated in society.